but you don't believe shoes as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't believe in shoes, yeah. No, you got to get your feet on the ground, bro. Okay, guys. Have you come across this yet? Have you come across this before? Okay, so when we're 6 years old, we go to school and they put a globe in front of us and tell us that people used to think we live on a flat earth. And that's impossible because you would sail off the edge of the flat earth, right? You've heard all that before, right? Well, what if we live inside of a bubble, inside of a globe? And inside the globe there is a layer, a sort of a hard layer, and that is the earth. And the reason I would offer you scientifically is that water is provably always level. No matter, other than a water droplet, any body of water at rest is level. And any other body of water near it can be shown to be parallel to that other body. And all bodies of water, like lakes, are parallel down the mountain until they get to the sea. And there's one sea level on Earth, and all mountains and topography is based on that same mean sea level. Even though there's tidal variations in some places, yes, there is really just one sea level on Earth. And our stones, the rocks in the middle, are the continents. Now, I'm going to offer you, because we can't show, there's no scientific experiment that shows that we're moving. Although the lights above us, the stars and the sun and the moon are obviously moving, or we're moving and they're not moving, one of those two, I prefer the idea that they're actually moving. There's experiments that sort of lean themselves to that, like Aries failure, for example. But I won't get too far into that. I'll give you a natural example. An orange might be a microcosm of the macrocosm. An orange might be an exemplar of how the whole universe that we can observe, every star, everything is inside some giant orange. And if you had to slice that orange down the center, you would find firstly a stem, a little like a line that would lead from the top of the orange into the seed bed. And there in the seed bed is where our continents would be in this macrocosmic orange. If you laid the orange, you've cut it down and you laid it open and laid it on its back, then that would be where our continents are, and the orange skin would be our oceans. And when we look up into the sky, what we see is the segments of the orange represented as the zodiacal signs, for example. The other thing to say is at the microcosmic level, that also applies to you, that you are an electromagnetic egg or a torus system. And in the center of that torus system, where the hourglass pinches, right there where it pinches, is the singularity that forms matter hard enough to become you. And I think that we are all these singularities with our own universes, walking around, experiencing each other's universe on a shared, hourglass, in a shared moment, in a shared universal moment that we call Earth. So that's my thesis, very quickly. Any questions?
If we're not moving, how come there are like seasons in this part of the world, in England, but like in countries on the equator, like in tropical regions, there's no seasons?
Okay, so if I was to give you like the Albert Hall as an example, if I was to shrink the Earth down to the Albert Hall, and then I was to shrink the sun down to the size of a very large spotlight, then the placement of that spotlight will have a determination on the weather or the climate in that area. So what people understood in the past was that the equator is the equator or equal torus, the point at which the two torus systems come together, and that's where twice a year the sun goes over that line. But all of the time it's either, and toruses do, you know how toruses spin, like think about your plug hole, like the water going down the plug hole. You know how it does that turning and twisting? Well, that's exactly what's kind of happening to our Earth, and the lights that move across it move either up or down or in or out towards or away from the equator, Capricorn or Cancer, and they give us that difference in daylight, the amount of heat that's delivered, that kind of thing. So if we put a tennis court, say, with a big powerful light in the center where the net is, then the closer you are to the net, the more you'll feel the light. The further away you are, then the less. But if I moved it down to the first baseline, the light, then they call that Cancer. Then of course those people on that side of the field would feel much more light than those people on the Capricorn side of that. So that works fairly easily. I don't say I have a working definitive model, but the model that we're given of the globe Earth, now that it's 7 years since I really reviewed all of this, it doesn't make sense. The length of the day now in the summertime, I've just flown up from South Africa, or over from South Africa, and the daylight and the way that the sun moves through the sky does not match this idea that we've got a light 93 million miles away that is illuminating us, and it's sort of making this sort of ellipse and making it so light into 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night here. But meantime in South Africa, it's dark already at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, for example. Versus in this country, in the wintertime, it'll be dark at 4 o'clock and have a much shorter day. It doesn't add up. It doesn't account for the system that they tell us. Anyway, you've got another question.
Okay. If it was stationary though, surely it would be winter all the time in some places and summer all the time in other places if nothing moved.
Yeah. Okay. So things are moving. Like I said, if you think about the old record player.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how as you play the record, the needle moves in towards the center.
So
well, our sun is this. Well, the sun's position is observably moving day to day, and the moon's position jumps around within one moon cycle, within 29 day cycle. She can jump from place to place, but you can track the moon. We know for thousands of years we've been able to track with absolute precision where the sun will rise on a particular day. We've built buildings for hundreds, thousands of years based on that principle. If as they say, you are on a spinning globe with three other movements in your globe world, and everything else was moving independently of that, then none of the stars, none of the things would line up in the way that they do for centuries. So it makes much more sense that the zodiacal signs are fixed and they do not move, and they move around us in some kind of circle. It seems in a circle. And the sun and the moon are two independent lights, one super hot, one super cold, and we can prove that scientifically, that the moon is a cold light. It's not reflecting sunlight. The moon landings, once you start to look at them with open eyes, they fall apart.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day. Good luck. Do you want a flyer? Did I give you a flyer?
I'm going to
Take a flyer. Okay. Flyer.